I have found that when you stop believing in a God, there is a lot of other stuff that gets wrapped into that. And it doesn't always come out right away, you know?
Right.
Like, you'll step away from this belief that, you know, there's something that created everything, right? Or that there's some divine plan or purpose. And like a year or so will go by, and then somebody will mention something kind of casually, and you'll go, oh, yeah, that doesn't make much sense anymore.
Yeah.
That's how it was for me with like souls and spirits and stuff. How much, when you were a believer and you went to church and stuff,
Yeah.
how much did the concept of a soul matter to you? Did you guys talk about it a lot? Did you think about it a lot? Or was it just kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess we have a soul, you know?
Right. You know, I can't say that we talked about specifically a soul very much. We did talk very much about an afterlife, and you know, the pearly gates and the streets of gold, and you know, all those things, and specifically whether or not you would get in or not.
Sure.
But the big thing is that this life would be over, and then you would spend eternity, you know, in this paradise. So this was essentially a green room waiting for the big show, you know. And so when I left faith, you realize that this isn't just the green room waiting for the big show. This is the big show.
Yeah.
And so it makes this time that much more valuable. And so you really want to savor these moments and these memories and these people and the interactions and the relationships. So it made me value the time that we have here so much more.
So it wasn't as if you were focusing on, you know, this spirit, non-corporeal entity thing that kind of like moved you and made you do stuff. It was more so the consequences of kind of where you would end up later on. You guys didn't spend that much time talking about like what your soul does or like is or anything like that. Wasn't a part of it, huh?
Not so much. I mean, yeah, I can't say I remember a whole lot about the soul, only that that part of you would continue on. And so you would, you know, your soul would live on.
Right.
And so we talked about those types of things a lot.
It was because it's so fundamentally tied together, the soul and the afterlife, right?
Right.
If there's no soul, then the likelihood of an afterlife is so low, in my opinion, right? Because how would you have an afterlife if you don't have some type of, you know, entity that kind of connects all of this stuff,
Sure.
right? And flip it too. If there's no afterlife, then the purpose of a soul seems worthless to me at that point. Like what would a soul do?
Right.
If not just keep you around for another chance at living, right?
Right.
You know? But I don't know. I always thought it was important whether or not we had a soul, because I guess I always felt like that was one of the most tangible connections to like the divine for me. The idea that there was you probably heard this word a bunch, an essence, you know, that distinguished us as people from everything else.
Right.
Right? Like rocks don't have souls,
Right.
you know? Now, whether or not animals did is an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know exactly where I was on that. I think I was kind of in this let's just not talk about it space. You
Right.
know, like I don't know if trees have souls. I don't know if
But do you think all dogs go to heaven?
well, that was the problem. See, that was the issue. Was I was trying to figure out how there could be such, loving and sweet creatures on earth that God had created, and yet they don't. They would get neither eternal bliss nor eternal punishment.
Right.
So they just stopped existing. Once they stopped existing here, they just stopped existing.
Right.
And for a really, really long time, it was like, well, yeah, of course, that makes sense. Like, of course, you just stop existing.
Right, but not with us.
Yeah, well, see, that was the thing. We had the soul.
Yeah.
We had something special that allowed us to kind of, I don't know, stick around, right? It was this thing that kept you tethered
Mhm.
to the world in some way.
I think human beings have done this in a variety of ways. As long as we've been here.
Yeah.
Whether it be ideas of reincarnation and coming back and living another life and sometimes multiple, who knows how many times I've been here, 100 times. Some people think like that. Some people think of a paradise of some sort that everyone goes to, and there's a wide variety of those. I think it's something that we've always done. Nobody wants to think that the party will go on without me, but I won't be here.
Yeah.
And once I left my faith, I really started processing a lot of those things. And it dawned on me one day that when I'm gone, it will bother me about as much as it did for the billions of years before I got here. Yeah, I wasn't sitting around going, man, it sure would be nice to go ahead and get born, go ahead and start some living. That would be nice, And I think it'll bother me the same amount after I'm gone.
Right.
I won't be looking back and going, God, man, life was so nice. I sure wish I could do that again.
Yeah.
I'll just be unaware. I won't be here. And so I don't believe that we have a soul in the same way. I don't believe that we have a chakra or a chi or any of these other things.
Right.
I had a guy in here one time, sat right in the seat that you're sitting in, and he was really convinced that we had a chakra. And I said, we have a what? He said, a chakra. And I said, where is it? And he's like, well, it runs and he actually wanted to sit there and tell me that it ran from this point to this point, And so I pressed him a little bit and I said, okay, now, so if I died and they took me to the morgue and they began slicing and dicing, you're telling me that they could pull it out and go, yep, here's Gary's
one heart,
chakra.
2 lungs, chakra.
And at that point he said, well, it's not really like that. I said, okay, that's what so there's not really, it's just some language that you like to use that makes you feel good about something. And I feel like we've done this the same way, whether it be with souls or paradise or reincarnation or some way of extending this life.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants it to be over. But one day it will be. So
let's get real with it then.
Okay.
Does that bug you? Do you ever have those moments where you sit around and you go like, oh shit, like I'm going to die?
Yeah.
Like, does that ever happen?
Well, that could be a reaction.
Sure.
Getting annoyed by it or getting freaked out about it or nervous or sad or anything else. I guess I'm fortunate that the reaction that I had to it was, again, it just made me savor this time that we have even more. And it made me more aware of my daily interactions with people, the memories that I can make. For my wife's birthday this last year, I didn't really get her anything, right? A tangible thing, right? Because that's not, we've been married 25 years. We've kind of gotten all the things that we wanted,
Yeah.
So now what is it that you want? We want memories. We want time together. And so she in the past loved some cooking classes that we went to. So I got her, we went to couples cooking classes. And then we had another night where we went and made candles and did a painting and that kind of stuff. So we got memories,
Yeah.
But we're over the tangible things.
Yeah.
So.
And those are the things that help you when it comes to those uncomfortable times, dealing with death. It sounds like that that realization that all of the best freaking stuff is right here, right now,
Right.
you know? And it's like, hey, yeah, eventually things will end, but in reality, it's because of the fact that they end that makes it so important right
Yeah.
now.
I mean, look, if death gets you down, do some living, man. You know?
I love that. That's great. That's freaking awesome, man. Yeah, I love that, man. We need a T-shirt with that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with it, man. I think you know, I went to see my family just this past week, and there was a time where I was talking with my mom about some of this. We were talking about, you know, whether or not we get a, you know, round two, and you know what it could be like to have an afterlife and stuff. And at one point I just had to say to her, well, you know, Mom, I think I I don't think there is anything after this. I think when this kind of ends, it just kind of ends. And she looked right back at me and went, yeah, that's kind of a bummer, Elliot. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
I totally get that feeling,
Yeah.
right?
That's when you guys, hey, don't get bummed out about
Yeah,
it.
right.
Do some living.
Do some living. I love it. Yeah, yeah. I think you know, I get why people want that to be true.
Yeah.
I really do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't fault anybody for saying, man, this thought makes me uncomfortable, and I'm just not gonna press it any further. You know, I really don't fault anybody for that. I and I know this is true for you. I really value an accurate understanding of the world around me,
Right.
even if that means I have to be a little uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
because I really do believe that is the best way to navigate. I think that we are going to answer questions quicker
Mm-hmm.
and better when we do that.
Right.
And you know, I get why some people might be a little bummed again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do too. But I think you're right. I want to believe true things, even if those true things make me a little uncomfortable, or I want to believe the fantastic things, the wonderful things.
Mhm.
And I also want to acknowledge as true the terrible things and the bad
Mm.
things and things that really suck.
Yeah.
You know, and I think um, having a deeper understanding of all the variety of goods and bads
Right.
gives us just a much richer, fuller understanding of reality.
Mm.
So, and I think the more that we mix in, I don't even know what you would call it. You and I, when we're sitting around, we call it the woo. You know, the smoke and mirrors kind of
Yeah.
the fairy tale type of thing.
Exactly.
The more that you sprinkle those in there, I think it takes away from a good, rich understanding of reality.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to do as much as I can to eliminate those things, and at the same time having like I said, a deeper, richer, fuller understanding of reality, the
Yeah.
goods and the bads.
Yeah.
So,
Because I think what we actually have around us in the real world
right,
is pretty awesome.
isn't it?
and the only way we've gotten to where we are now is by studying and understanding it more. And the only way we'll ever make any more progress,
Right.
is that right there. You know, again, I love talking about bioluminescent shark, baby.
Hey.
Like they get like a few feet long and they glow in the dark, and it's awesome. And that is so cool, and that is real. You don't need to make anything up. You don't need to pretend anything. It is just demonstrable day in and day out. And I think as cool as some of these stories can be about past lives, or about the potential for a next life, like as cool as they are, I always find the real stories to be cooler. you
Oh
know?
yeah. I think this place is so much more cool than Pearly Gates and Streets of Gold. You know, I think the Glow in the Dark Shark
Yeah.
is much more amazing.
Right?
So, yeah, this world is pretty incredible, and I want to get to know it as accurately as I can.
Yeah. So what do you say to somebody if they come up to you and they say, "Look, Gary, I know for a fact.
Hmm.
I know for a fact I've had past lives.
Hmm.
I've experienced those memories." What do you say? I mean, you don't think it's real, so
And well, first of all, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Yeah. If I'm a little bit spicier, I might say something like, "I've had dreams too." I mean, you know, I might ask for any kind of evidence that they, so I would try my best to be cordial and explore that with
Right.
them. But I honestly feel like that person is under some sort of a delusion, and I would be as kind as I can be, but try to help them navigate past that.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think there can be, because it's always something I wonder about, do you think there's any harm that can come from this type of belief? Is there something like, is this one of those things that really at the end of the day is benign and doesn't really hurt anybody, so just let people think whatever they want? They want to think they were a knight in the 1500s, like who cares, what is that?
I mean, that's a good question. I can't say I've ever really spent a lot of time pondering that one. I could see it being a benign belief. I mean, people walk around all the time with beliefs that they can't uh, prove or demonstrate to be true.
Yeah.
Um, I guess my first response would be is it all boils down to how they interact with other people,
Sure.
and to how they treat themselves. I've seen people treat themselves pretty badly, believing that a God was watching, or that some belief they had was causing them to treat themselves poorly,
Yeah.
and I've seen beliefs be the reason that people treated other people very poorly. And I think in the end, to me anyway, it comes down to that. How are you bumping around in the world? How are you
Right.
interacting with other people? And how are you treating yourself? And if those go south because of those beliefs, then now all of a sudden it can become harmful.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think in my experience, I don't know that this is clear cut always, but I think in my experience, the beliefs that are demonstrably true, the beliefs that have more evidence to back up their veracity, are the ones that lead to the least amount of harm, or at the very least are the beliefs that can help us mitigate the harm the most. I think the false beliefs, the ones that don't have enough supporting evidence to accept as true, I think those are the ones where we find a greater likelihood for harm.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to explore that some more.
Yeah.
One time. I wouldn't mind unpacking that with you.
Yeah, we'll probably
a little
talk
bit.
again in the future, you think? It might keep hanging out here.
Sure, I'll see you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.